here we are. I'm Tom Osman, and this is Whatever Comes Next, the podcast where I explore the world of underground and independent music making. And on today's episode, I am talking with Swiss guitarist, singer, and songwriter elie, who recently put out the single Change My Name, which is the first track from a forthcoming new album that will be coming out in autumn. And this was a fascinating discussion for me, both in terms of going through the musical history of elie and understanding their way of songwriting, a very interesting and I would say kind of unique songwriting style and approach to playing guitar and making songs from various different tunings, even within tracks, retuning guitars, which kind of boggles my mind. All of which was as well quite informative in terms of understanding how elie approached relearning how to sing, which is another topic that we get into in this interview, because elie has gone through a transformation which involved their voice changing dramatically. So if you go back to some of their earlier recordings from as far back as I think about 2012, you can hear that their voice is very, very different. So elie describes the story of how actually touring, I think it was last year or the year before, their voice was actually changing in the middle of the tour, and what that required in terms of modifying the style, and also what that required in terms of, you know, thinking about how to make the forthcoming album. So really interesting discussion, lovely person, and yeah, I definitely think this is worth checking out. You can actually go to eliezoe's website, which is eliezoe.com. You can also go to Instagram. There's a link on the website through to Instagram. elie makes little video clips, including also a set of video clips sort of documenting the making of the video that goes along with Change My Name, which is quite interesting to follow, to see sort of behind the scenes of that process. That's the conversation. You can follow me at Tom Osman Sounds. You can go to tomosmansounds.com to see what I'm doing musically. And I think that is all. I'm going to play Change My Name at the end of this interview, and I'll play a little clip before this conversation. And so nothing remains to be said, but elie, take it away.
Change my name, make some holes in my brain to see the light. Stabilize, take a look through my things and figure me out.
Hi.
Hi,
Tom, nice to meet you.
Ellie. Nice to meet you too.
Are you connecting from home?
Yeah.
Is this also where you do a lot of recording?
Yeah,
Maybe not
well,
anymore.
I live in several places. Like I have roommates in several cities in Switzerland.
Okay.
But this is La Chaux-de-Fonds, a city in the mountains, and just a few blocks from here, we built a studio, and that's where we recorded the entire album last year.
Right, so this is the forthcoming album that's going to be called Shifting Forms, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so everything's all completely done, mixed, mastered, everything, just waiting for the release date?
Yeah, I received the last waves like 3 days ago. So yeah, and they're finished, and I just have to now finish the artwork and
Okay.
send it to the pressing factory.
So, like, if talking about your artwork, if I look at various different other releases of yours, is that something that you've tended to be involved in, the artwork?
Yeah, I think I've been involved in all the artworks I've ever done until now.
And
I think, yeah.
you had a book, right, that came out a year or two
Yeah.
ago of artwork.
Yeah, I also draw. But yeah, I've always liked taking pictures, drawing, painting,
Mhm.
but a bit like the music. I never thought it could be an activity, you know?
Yeah.
In the family where I grew up, they're really open-minded, but they went to university, and my parents are architects, and so music was not like a goal in life, or at least writing songs and performing on stage.
Yeah.
And so I just thought until I was 18, I just thought, okay, I'm gonna do something else, and I just studied mathematics and physics. And I went to the EPFL. It's like the Polytechnic school in
Mm.
Lausanne. And then after meeting some people that were musicians and were doing that in life, I was like, okay, this is possible, in fact. So I stopped, I paused my studies and just started trying to be a musician and started writing songs, and the whole painting and artists visual art stuff
Yeah.
went along. I could use it, like I could just, I had pictures in mind and I could just make them match with the music I was producing. So that's the way I found to make visual arts. But yeah, it's a special. It's weird because I never thought this is my job, you know.
Yeah. But so like is this actually now a full-time thing for you making music?
Yes, but I don't live with this project, Elie. This is
Yeah.
my main activity in the percentage in my day-to-day life. It's the main activity, but to make a living out of it, I have to do other things.
Mm.
And for 5, 6, maybe 7 years, I've been writing music for theater pieces. And
Okay.
this is a complete different economic field in Switzerland, at least.
Mm.
And I can write one theater piece and then live 1 year out of it.
Wow.
So
Okay.
almost. So I'm doing several other things, but in the musical field still. And I'm also coaching bands sometimes, or yeah,
That's pretty cool. But basically everything that you're doing is in some way within the sort of musical, creative, artistic world.
yeah.
Not much in physics.
Since not, but I'm still studying and reading a lot about physics,
Yeah.
and also those last days more biologists uh, and anthropologists,
Mm.
and yeah, um, I feel like I never stop studying, but I do it on
Yeah.
my own, and that feeds the song
Yeah,
and
that's
the
cool.
writing. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's not only about the music. And if for a reason or another I would have to stop playing music, it wouldn't be a problem because I'm really interested in really a lot of things. So I could like really quickly switch, I guess.
Yeah, that's
But
cool.
I'm feeding the music with all those interests that are
Yeah.
not really music. I mean, if I don't write songs or play my songs, I don't play the guitar to play the guitar. I
Yeah.
mean, I do other things. I cook. I'm really into white plants and knowing which ones of them you can eat and how
Ah.
to cook them, and also producing colors out of them.
Producing colors, like making
Yeah,
like inks
paint.
and paints. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
and la teinture. I don't know how do you say in English.
Textiles, fabrics.
Yeah, but to make the color.
Yeah, technical language that I should know. I'm an English
Yeah.
teacher as well. I should really like know vocabulary, but then sometimes I find holes in my vocabulary.
Yeah, and don't hesitate to ask me to formulate something again because I'm not. It's not my mother tongue, but I
It's
love
all good.
speaking English. But so if it's a bit,
No, no, it's so cool. I,
it's
I
normal.
I often interview people from non native English speaking background, so it's cool.
Okay,
I like it.
cool,
It's all good. And
cool.
I appreciate it. Thank you for talking to me in, I don't know, it's probably your third language, right? Is English your second or your third or even your
Yeah,
fourth
it's
language?
my second. It's my
It's your
second.
second, okay.
Yeah.
So what is your first language? Is it French?
It's French. Yeah.
Okay.
I learned German at school as well, but I haven't practiced it. We're in
Yeah.
a really small country. Switzerland is a really small
Mm,
country with four different languages.
yeah.
None of them are English, but English is the one that everyone can speak.
Mm,
So that's the language we use. And also, we learn German at school, but it's like a Hochdeutsch.
yes.
So the German from Germany, but it's not the German spoken in Switzerland. So it's really hard because when you go to somewhere and you speak Hochdeutsch, they're like, let's switch to English, okay?
Yeah, I lived in Germany for a few years and I was learning German while I was there. And I remember in the course book we had, when it was teaching you the words, they'd have a little thing down the bottom that was like, yeah, this is the German. And then there's the Swiss German and there's the Austrian German as well. So I know that there can be a lot of differences.
Yeah, that's why I just lost it a bit.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
fair.
speak French and English. But I
So,
really love the fact that English is not my mother tongue, and to write in this language is really it's so cool.
yeah.
It's another space. I don't know. And also, I've read books in French that really blew my mind, and
Mm,
it was the one I really remember is the book written by someone who couldn't speak French at all, but wrote in French with the dictionary,
okay.
and the language in this book is so. It's a Swiss author
Interesting.
called Agota Christoph. Yeah.
So what's his native language then?
Uh, Hungarian.
Ah,
Mhm.
interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
so French is imagined through a Hungarian.
And it's, I mean, it's simple French sentences, but in a way that a French, if French is your mother tongue, then you wouldn't write like this.
Yeah.
But then the poetry in it,
Yep. Yeah, it's
yeah,
interesting because in a way, like I feel like there's a parallel between that and music. Like you can have, classical training or you can be very skilled, but maybe sometimes that training can get in the way of a certain expression. If you can sort of forget things, or even if you didn't have them in the first place, you might make connections that you wouldn't otherwise do because your training would say like, oh no, I'm not supposed to do it that way. I'm supposed to do it this way.
yeah. You mean by knowing how to play the music, or?
I mean, just like, it can be great to have technical skill, but sometimes if you have a lot of technical skill, you might not do kind of accidental things that could be great
Mm,
because your trained mind says that's not the way I'm supposed to do it. Like it
yeah,
doesn't follow the rules.
yeah. I can relate to that also by the fact that I almost learned how to play music by myself.
Mm,
I had a guitar teacher, but with him we just listened to music, and yeah, it was more a cultural music baggage for me. I don't know
yeah.
if you use that word, but then the way I just learned how to sing and relearned how to sing last year also, and also the way of playing the guitar is a
Mm,
really not academic.
yep.
Uh, I write the songs while tuning the guitar, like,
Okay.
and so almost every song has a different tuning, because it's just I
Oh,
started
interesting.
writing one part of the song, and
Yeah.
then the voice came in, and then I'm okay. Okay, this is the first part, and then I want to go there with the voice, and oh, with the strings, it's not really comfortable, and I would like to have this open string to go with it.
Mm.
And so I detune it, da, 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 find the right tuning, and then it opens different different spaces, or the solutions I found while writing are different than if I would use the standard tuning.
That's fascinating. So how do you then accommodate that on stage when you're playing this music live?
I have four guitars on stage, and Not really, not because of their sound, just because of the tunings.
Wow, okay.
And also, I developed a way of writing the music since 2014. I've only played duo on stage, so
Mm,
with the drummer who also sings and can also play the keyboards and some synth parts. But the almost the whole harmonic instrumentation is played by myself. And so for several years, I just used the octave pedal to octave my
mm,
signal down. And then I was like, okay, but it's really restrictive in a way because when I octave the whole signal to play the bass, in fact, I'm octaving the whole signal. So if I don't play simple notes, then the octave pedal wouldn't don't understand at all, and it's like a whole mashup sound.
yeah.
And so I started to modify my guitars, and
Mm,
they have two outputs, and I can play really the bass with the lower strings, but they're separated from the rest of the notes,
mm.
and that allows me more ways of writing and playing the guitar. And so, and then I play with 2 or 3 amps, and so the guitar sound can really fill the space by itself.
This is fascinating. Oh, there are so many different things that have come up already, so many different avenues that I want to go down. So,
Okay,
but
okay.
let's before we get any further, let's talk about Change My Name. So you've just recently put that out. I think at the time that we're doing this, it was a couple of weeks ago that it came out. Is that right?
Yeah, maybe 1 month.
Oh, at the end of March.
Yeah, end of
Okay.
March.
One of the things, so I've listened to a fair bit of your music, and obviously there's been quite a change. Like you mentioned briefly that about your voice, and so we can get into that. But I like how in the song there are these transitions, which in a way maybe comes out in what you were just talking about with the way that you'll start writing a song and then you'll be changing the tuning and like it seems like there's very much processes going on through the song of like it's got this very kind of sort of low key indie rock start to it, which sort of escalates and then it's sort of going up and down in terms of the intensity. And then it's got this kind of like crescendo and then it goes out into this more sort of spacey landscape. And it's very beautiful the way it all kind of transitions from one part to another. So I'm wondering for you, like when you started writing this song, did you already have an idea of the way you wanted the whole thing to be, or this gradually came together piece by piece?
Mm, the starting point was I can't eat, win, no, and I didn't know how many words I would put in this, but with those words anymore.
Mm,
Um, and that was the starting point. I knew it would be heavy guitars, well, with
yeah.
loud amps, and played quite loud.
Mm,
And then I had this idea of another part of song I wrote, which was the beginning of the song.
mm,
I wrote it in another period of my life, like maybe 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
yeah.
And I thought those would fit perfectly well. And I had the idea of a loud riff, and it was already in the first I can't, no, no, no. I
Mm,
thought it would be the point where we get to. And so I had to find from where. And I thought, yes, this part of song I wrote could fit. And
mm,
then I had this idea of then I want a fuzzy riff. I knew that, but I hadn't written it. And at the end of it, I just wanted a quick transformation.
mm,
And I also already knew that because I played some kind of same scenario on stage during the last tour,
mm.
but not with this song, but it was between two songs. It was just a hard cut, a
Yeah.
sharp cut, and so I knew that, and then while playing, I'm posting a small reel tonight about the process, how we built the song.
Mm,
And yeah, then it's just writing. And the second half of the song, I knew it would be something around the picking, but I
mm,
didn't know what or how, and started playing and filmed myself. I'm either filming or recording when I try, because as I don't know the notes, I don't know what I'm playing actually.
yeah.
Then I listen to it again and then find the right piece
Yeah.
and parts, and then bring them together. And then it's just it was just built piece by piece. Like, okay, I have this picking part. I know that I want this voice, but I'm hearing other voices. How
Mm,
could we do that? In the beginning, I didn't want any words on the second part,
mm,
just to say, okay, now we've changed names. We don't know. It's an open space. We want to be able to invent and imagine other ways of sharing, um, understanding ourselves and each other. But then we recorded this second part live with a choir of friends,
mm,
and they could sing all the voices I had in my head, and building them little by little. And then I thought maybe we can change the space where we're in while listening this song. The first part we're in a recording room, but then the second part maybe somewhere else. And so I just recorded the forest and
mm-hmm.
put the recording in it. And so it made a texture or something.
Mm,
And then I heard the birds singing in the forest on top of the choir. And I was like, okay, so those are voices. So maybe I could also include human voices in it. And so that's why you can hear French speaking people speaking in the second part. It's
yeah.
just my friend, the the vocal messages we sent each other
Oh, okay.
during last year,
That's cool.
and also during the whole process of transitioning and things. But
Yeah.
for me, it's not really a subject, but I could relate. This could relate and change my name.
Yeah.
But for me, it's not change my name like as Elie. It's just a call. Like, if you changed my name, would we interact differently?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about that a lot in my day-to-day life. How words oh, it's
Mm,
a bit philosophical, but how
Hey, this is fine. This is my background. Get as philosophical as you want.
cool. How names uh, condition us
Yeah.
with ourselves, and also while meeting other people or other
Yeah.
beings. And then finally, I had this whole landscape, and I was like, okay, but this could be a song, a second part of a song, and not just an instrumental part.
Mm.
So I can, and the words came, and I sung on that second part too. So yeah, that's a bit how I wrote this song.
No, that's fascinating. So I do want to get into a little bit about this transformation that you've gone through, because it's kind of, there are various different ways that we can look at this. So it's like, if anyone goes onto Bandcamp, for example, and looks at your material, obviously when you started out, you were releasing music under a different name. And also as well, like if you go back and listen, well, if anyone goes back and listens to I guess it's the first, I don't know if it's exactly, if solo is quite right, the first release that you put under your name, which I think was the Empty EP, which was like 12 years ago.
Yeah, yeah,
Your voice sounds very, very different. So like
of course.
from that kind of like philosophical point of view of like identity, when you go back and listen to that now, does that feel like that's you?
Yes, of course, but it's me in the past. And it's almost as if I was a child before and I just been through teenage
Mm.
years last year, or like the four. When did I started changing my voice? I don't know. In 2023, I guess. So for me, it's the same person,
Yeah.
but when I look at myself, I'm like, okay, I was not ready yet. Something like that.
Mm.
Ready to be uh it's an experiment of freedom for me, I guess.
But that's also, you know, to have been creating art for that long, and I know that you were involved making music before that, like you were making music with other people,
Mm,
to have been expressing yourself artistically for that long and to
mm,
have this much material and then to decide, right, now I'm transforming and now my voice is changing. And so that has implications about the way you're going to be performing older material. Has that been difficult to kind of go, right, now I have to look back on what I've got and kind of figure out what I can use, how I'm going to use it? Does it mean the same to me as it used to mean to me?
mm. It's a long process. So it's not 1 minute you have to make a choice, or 1 minute you have to
Yeah.
decide, and 1 minute you have to look back at things. But the voice is the most important element in this
Mm.
discussion, talking about the music.
Yep.
So I'm gonna speak about that. Um, it started changing during a tour, during Hello Future tour, so last tour. And I started really taking those slowly, little by little, uh, and seeing how it felt and if it changed something, and if I had to change or not, if I
Mm.
wanted to. So for me, everything is really slow and takes its time. But after 1 year, I was like, okay, I don't think it changed anything. I took a really low dose of hormones and it was not enough for me. I started feeling unwell, and so I took more. And during the tour, my voice changed, and it was a bit weird because I just felt tired after the shows, and I didn't know why. And then I just met a friend who said, "Okay, but now your songs are not for your voice. They're not your tonalité
Mm.
anymore. So you have to tune them down if you want to finish the tour without losing your voice for the rest of your life." And so we started doing that during the tour, like
Wow.
transposing the songs lower and lower,
Yeah.
almost three tone.
Tones. Yeah, I guess. My
Uh,
technical musical language is actually quite poor.
yeah, that's okay.
The word tone makes sense to me.
um, and at the end of, yeah, 6 months after that, I would just felt like I had to stop the tour because it didn't make sense playing those songs so much lower
Yeah.
anymore. And
Yeah,
so
they
I
kind of
stopped
they'd sort of
doing,
lost the essence of what they were before.
yeah, or at least I hadn't found a right way to sing them as I was after that
Yep.
transformation. So I
Yeah.
stopped the tour, and the whole process of writing this new album and change my name included was also how to relearn how to sing, because
Mm.
I don't know if you remember when you were a teenager how it felt just to speak and not know whose voice it is. I don't know if you
It's funny,
experimented
do you know, I
that.
don't remember it, but I do remember a friend of mine had like a big camcorder and we used to record videos. And I remember when I was a teenager watching one of these videos from when I was about 10 and hearing how high and squeaky my voice was and thinking like, I used to sound like that. But I can't
Yeah.
really remember getting from one phase to the next.
Okay. So I don't know if it's the same, but I
Mm.
I think it could relate to that be similar. Um, and so I had really to repatch my brain with my vocal cords
Mm,
because I couldn't think of a note and sing it anymore.
yeah.
I had to and I never had to think about that, about
Mm,
the note I would sing. And I remember one night waking up and being like, okay, now I can't sing any of the song I've ever written until now. And it was a bit vertigineux. I don't know how to say it in English.
I don't know, but it
Uh,
sounds like a beautiful word. I wish I knew what it was in English.
it's when you're on top of a mountain and you look down and you're like,
Maybe we use
oh,
that word, vertiginous. Yeah, maybe it's just
vertiginous.
to have you have vertigo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. So that's how I felt.
Wow.
And so, but I just took it in the way of, okay, it's new possibilities, new instruments to know how to play,
Mm,
and it's just really interesting.
yeah.
And now I'm taking months, maybe a year, to know
Mm,
how to write new songs with that. And the whole process of writing also came from some vocal memos that I recorded before. And
yep.
so I also had to find the right uh, keys
Mm,
for each part of song and
yeah.
trying different uh, higher or lower to be able to sing the whole thing.
Yeah, to figure out like what the best range was for
My
yourself.
range. Yeah.
That's so interesting. And but in a way, like from what you described at the beginning, when you were talking about the way that you construct music and like sort of retuning the guitar as you go, it sounds like you were already kind of primed for this kind of process. It's like that's sort of already inbuilt in you of being quite adaptive in terms of the way that you put it together.
Yeah, and I think it was not really difficult for me. It was a
Mm,
long process, but I liked it. And I think if I could feel, well, when I look at the world now, I'm like, if we're flexible, then we can go through life and not be so distracted or affected by the shock.
mm.
Mm. And I never consciously thought, okay, I'm doing exercise, I'm exercising my flexibility,
Yeah.
but life taught me how to.
Yeah.
Because I'm a musician, not knowing what notes I'm playing. Because I'm a person who had to relearn how to sing. Because
Yeah.
well,
On the other side of that, have you found now that your range has gone down, are you now discovering, lower tones that are available to you and you're like, oh wow, I can now like explore this when I'm making music?
of course, yes, singing the lowest notes I can sing is really delicious, and I feel my entire body vibrating, and I
Mm.
never found that before, and so and I really recording the vocals for this album has never been so easy.
Oh,
And so,
interesting.
and I recorded them really quickly.
Mm.
I did like 5 takes, and for Change My Name, it was 1 take. And it was okay, that's it. And before I remember for Hello Future Me, we spent 10 days recording the vocals and more than 1 day for each song. And
Mm.
I remember also saying, but is it really the sound of my voice? Doesn't doesn't it feel too childish or something? Can you do something about it? And sometimes we recorded for one EP, we recorded the voice a bit faster and then stretched it.
Okay, to make it lower as you slowed it
Yeah,
down.
but it was unconscious. you know?
Yeah.
I just did that because it felt good.
Mm.
And now and now I just have this voice now without
That's
doing any trick.
that's very
But I
interesting.
feel that like that's my real voice.
So going back a bit, so
Mhm.
as we touched on there, you were making music before you started making music under your own name. So tell me a little bit about sort of your early formative music making experiences, like when you started playing guitar and when you started singing.
I started playing guitar when I was 8 because I went to a show for children and I was amazed by the fact that one person with one guitar just telling stories with the guitar could touch so many people at the same time.
Mm.
I was blown away by that. I was moved. I could cry thinking about that. And I thought when I was 8, okay, I want to do that in life. But as I said before, I thought it was not an option. So I took guitar lessons, but mostly we just listened to the Beatles and tried to listening and finding the notes. And that's
Mm.
still how I play music. I tried to learn theory, but never succeeded. But I'm okay with that because, as you said before, maybe you don't know what to do, and so you can do not uh, authorized
Yeah,
things.
exactly. Do something kind of magical that would be
Yeah,
harder for someone to find.
yeah. And then singing, I just started singing in my bedroom when I was a teenager.
So what do you remember like you were singing along to as a teenager?
Um, uh, French songs because
Okay.
I grew up in this culture.
Pop music or
Uh,
more like traditional songs or like theater or
mm, French singers, la chanson in France is really a kind of music. La chanson. It's just the text is really central.
mm,
The lyrics are really central, and and I think I kept that while writing my songs. For me, the voice should be really loud in the mix and
mm,
really central. And even though I'm playing rock music or indie rock music, or I don't know how I could call it because it's a lot of variety in the styles.
yeah.
But while the instrumentation is a bit rock, okay, so
Mm,
but the text and the lyrics are and the melodies of the voice are the center for me. And it's a dialogue with the guitar and the
mm.
rhythm, but it's really a dialogue between those two. And a song is finished for me. The composition of the song is finished when I feel good playing the guitar and singing and finding the right way to make those two elements interact. And then I started writing songs when I was 18.
And did you start writing in French first of all or English?
No English. Because,
Interesting.
well, that's when I was a teenager. I started listening to more. I think the bands I remember are Tugalans, the a band from California. I really love them. It's a duo, um, guitar and drums, and it's you'll see. And I've seen them live 4 times, and each time it was really different.
Mm.
And they also have a lot of dynamics in their songs. So that's a band that really uh, influenced me. Yeah,
And do they play without
um,
percussion?
with the
Oh,
drum set.
they do have drums as well. Okay.
Yeah, Mhm. And then also the White Stripes. I listened
Mm.
to them a lot. Um,
That makes sense because I
and
notice like you've got in some of your music, it's more delicate, but some of it you have more of that kind of like driving rhythm. So White Stripes would make sense as the
yeah,
kind of influence.
but I think it's a nice melting. and cross those kind
Pollination.
of influence and cross path with more melodic stuff. I also listened to a Belgian band called Girls in Hawaii,
Okay.
and the melodies
Ah.
and the harmonies in the voices are
Mm.
really, really important for me. And also, a thing that I forgot to mention was that when I was a child, although my parents were architects, my father used to sing in choirs.
Mm.
And as a child, I just went to his concerts, and it was the first big emotions while listening to music, like 30 voices singing together in
Mm.
a reverberating place and with harmonies, and I don't know. And when I write, I always have more than one voice,
Mm.
and I have to decide, okay, no, for this verse, only one voice will be enough. Let's keep the other two for the chorus or the bridge, okay?
Yeah.
So that's why also there are a lot of choirs in the music I write.
Mm.
And during some of the last two tours, we played special shows inviting people to sing on stage with us as an amateur choral
Oh, that's nice.
choir.
That's very nice.
And that's a way I want to also think about the future of touring.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And you know what?
Oh,
That.
I'm talking and talking. I'm sorry.
No, 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 it's great. That ties into something that I wanted to ask you about
Okay.
because I wanted to ask you about Jona Nido because
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed him
Mm-hmm.
last year,
Mm-hmm.
partly about that time the new Coil Guns album and partly about Humus Records, and he was a really inspirational guy to talk to understand about his kind of ethos about music and about the record label. And I understand as well from the press release that you're also really kind of keenly interested in the sort of communal side of music, and what you just described there with this kind of amateur choir on stage seems to feed into that as well. So maybe you can tell me a bit about meeting Jona and how that kind of relationship ties into this ethos of this sort of communal way of thinking of music.
Mm-hmm. I met Jonah and Louis Juker, who produced the album.
Mm.
They both play in Koigans. Um,
And you're a drummer as well, right?
yeah, on the record, but not on stage. But yeah,
Right, okay.
the drummer who plays on Change My Name, the studio version, is the drummer in Koigans. I met them through Louis Juker when I started reflecting on how I wanted my music to sound like on stage. In the very beginning, the EP Empty, we were four, uh, and we were touring. Yeah, I made a band,
Yeah.
and but I felt like okay, my voice and my guitar don't have enough space in the
Hmm.
sound. So discussing with Louis, I chose to just be two on stage.
It's really interesting
And
that
it
you
was
say that because,
logical because
yeah.
two gallons, because of the white stripes, because of other things, but I didn't notice it before. Yeah,
I
just
was just going to say, I was wondering about that because when I was looking through different releases and I was looking at who played on them, I got that feeling that Empty was a band. And then
hmm.
I got the sense that after that release, it was like you'd made a conscious decision that you were going to change the kind of configuration of it. So, yeah, it fits what
What
I
I
was
like
thinking.
in music if is when you don't have many elements, but every element can take a lot of space and have a lot of importance
Mm.
in the music. And so I met Jonah because I just recorded Dead and Tape, which is the solo album I recorded while thinking, should we be one or two or three on stage? I don't know. So I recorded the solo album, Dead and Tape with Louis, and Jonah published it on their Humus Records. And it was the first or second or third, but not more, band he released apart from Coil Guns. I mean,
All right.
they just founded the label to release their own music because nobody wanted to release their music at that time.
Mm,
And the first EP, I just produced it by myself and released it under no label at all. And for this album, um, I started working with Humus. It was in 2015. The album came out in 2016. And from that year on, we just grew together. I started touring a lot, and then visibility on that project gave also visibility on other projects of the label.
mm,
And we just became friends. So it's a bit of a family thing. We just like to hang on together and speaking about life together. And I feel very free working with that label. I feel like I could write an album that's not at all resembling or like the stuff I did before. It wouldn't matter. And also, I like the philosophy about sharing knowledge and instruments and uh, places and also stages. Sometimes I think he must have told you that we organize events or like festivals, but in a club
yes, he
with
did tell me
several
about that.
bands.
Yeah.
Think about how we use the space in a club,
Mm,
uh, do the shows, always have to be on stage, but no, maybe they can be in the in in the closet. I don't know. We did things like that, and that's really interesting. And for me, it's music is about meeting people and sharing
mm,
things with people. And I'm a bit frustrated and feeling that it's not really aligned with my values to just be touring the usual way.
mm,
It means driving a lot of kilometers, arriving in a place, setting up, sound check, eating, playing, load out, and that's it. You're tired. You sleep at a hotel, and then the next day it's the same. I did a lot. I played 700 shows in my life, I think, until now. So I did it a lot. But for me, it's like the old way. It's already obsolete. And so I would really love to find a way of touring. And that's what I called in Hello Future Me, the previous album. It
mm,
was an album to say, just write or tell or yeah, tell the stories that you want to happen. And then it's just like throwing a seed in a field and maybe it will grow. That's a possibility. You give it the possibility to exist.
mm,
And so now I'm telling you how a tour looks like in my dreams.
mm,
As like you're at least 4 or 5 or maybe 6 days in a row in the same place. So you get one
mm,
day, then you set up, and then you're set up to for the whole week. And then you have the time, if you play every night, you have the time during the days to meet local people, to meet the people who welcome you, to make. I would love to. I'm already thinking about a way of sending memo vocals, sending the lyrics, uh, and preparing stuff with the venue who
yeah.
welcome us to say, okay, it's open. It's an open call for people who want to sing
Yeah.
and participate in the concert for this week. You can come on those afternoons, and then we'll rehearse together. And in the evening, we'll play the show together. So for every venue, there will be other people on stage.
Mm,
But I love doing that. I love meeting people. I love also singing with children and teenagers, and with all the other activities that I love, like knowing what are the plants growing around. I'm used to those around me here in Switzerland, but last year, for example, I spent some time in Britain, in France, and I was amazed by the fact that the plants are not the same.
Mm.
And I discovered a lot of different plants. So it could be also something we could do, walking around and finding out what's around us, and then cooking with that with those plants and just eating together. And then comes the show, and also with all the things about the colors and painting that we could make. I don't know. We
This is
have to invent
fascinating.
it.
This is great. I think this sounds wonderful. But I was thinking to myself, okay, to like imagine that as
Hmm.
a way of doing shows and a way of touring. I suppose if you maybe had several bands or several performers to be part of that, then you could sort of turn it into, rather than having like a festival where you go like these bands play this day, then these this day, and these this day. It's kind of like you're all
Hmm.
involved in the whole
Yeah,
event, but it turns it
yeah.
into something which is more than just like a gig in the way that people usually think of it.
Of course, more like maybe let's think more in the circus way.
Yeah,
And I really feel that maybe around this label, I often use the term family to describe the links between the different bands and the people around um, the label. So maybe it could be around this. I
mm,
also already talked about that with a person who's as making circus shows and tour with a chapiteau, like build their own house
yeah.
at every place. And maybe I could also be a part of that. So we'll see if it will be around the label or another group of and also mixing disciplines,
Yeah.
having bands and also shows, theater shows or dance or circus. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Would be
fascinating.
cool for
I
me.
Yeah, I just interviewed a duo a couple of weeks ago from now I've forgotten what part of the US they're from, but they're called Charming Disaster, and they play kind of sort of gothic folk rock, if that's quite the right way to describe them. But they've played with like fire eaters, jugglers, different kind of circus performers. So, like when you were describing that, I was thinking like, oh yeah, this sounds a bit like something that would make sense for them too. That whole kind of like you say, multidiscipline sort of event.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Mm-hmm. And maybe it's several shows in every night. Like you have in venues, you have at least two shows.
Yeah,
So maybe it can be three shows, and people also, the bass player in Coil Guns is the sound engineer of another band and can also be our sound engineer. And I could
yeah.
also, yeah, we
Hmm.
can invent a way of putting the energies together.
I think this is great. This is like novel and inventive ways of creating more of a community in the musical underground. I think this is great.
That's at least a way of touring that would be more aligned with the
Yeah.
way I feel inside. Yeah.
Given that these are all things which you're sort of formulating and figuring out at the moment, do you actually have concrete plans for shows and tours in the coming months already?
We'll start playing in October
Hmm.
for the release of the album and
Do
play
do you
several
have a
shows.
release? Do you have a release date for the album?
Yeah, October 10th.
Okay.
Mhm. And yeah, we'll play several shows in Switzerland in the autumn until the end of the year, and then we'll hopefully tour in at least France and Germany in 2026. And if we can play in other countries as well, we'll be happy. But I mean, the whole project just grew slowly.
Mm.
I've been playing those songs that I wrote since I was 18. So that makes, um, I don't know,
15?
16 years, 15, 16 years. And really, it started really small. Then we started playing in France. And last tour was the biggest tour I ever did with my songs, and maybe it will be a bit even further from home in
Mm.
2026. And for me, if we can play a normal tour in 26 to be able to propose those snail tours
Yeah.
in 2027, it will be the ideal. I think it's too early, except in the French part of Switzerland, to play 5 days in a row in a venue.
Yeah.
Like proposing that in, I don't know where you live, it wouldn't make sense at all.
I think it's a great idea, though. I mean, I think it does make sense the way you're thinking about it, that you kind of like get there in stages, but I like it. And yeah, it's like it takes somebody to think of something unusual. Someone always has to be the first person to introduce something that other people are going to go, "What? I don't get it." But there's always got to be that first person before something can
Mm,
be accepted. So
mm,
I think it sounds like a great project.
cool. We'll see. It's also about the money. If
Yeah.
we have support from the country, then we can do more.
Mm.
I'll talk to them and see what is possible. But yeah, that could be great. I think we have to be at least 5 people, maybe even more,
Mm.
to just be able to share the energy. Who's leading that part of the day, and
Yeah.
because if I had to play a show every night plus taking in charge all the rest, it would be too much.
Yeah.
But if we're, yeah, 6, 7, 8 people forming 2 bands, could be a start.
I think it could be.
Mm.
So thinking about then the forthcoming release of the album and the shows and whatever else you're planning in the future, I don't remember if you actually have your own website. What's the best way for people to keep track of shows, releases, etc.?
I mean, I have a website, and the tour dates are not announced yet, so they're not on the website
Hmm.
yet, but there will be in 1 month, I guess.
And what's the name of your website?
Eliezoe.com.
That's clear.
Easy. And also Instagram, Elie Music, and
Hmm.
Facebook, Elie Music. I will post whenever we have some news, I will post there.
And if people want to buy music, you've got links on your website that'll go to Humus Records or they'll go to Bandcamp or
Yeah,
wherever. Is that right? Yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
And so, yeah, if you want to buy a CD or an LP, you have to go to Humus Records.
Yeah. Well, Ellie, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. It was really fascinating.
Thank you.
Change my name, make some holes in my brain to see the light. Stabilize, take a look through my things and figure me out. But I'm as afraid as you. Just wanna walk away. Change my face. The disorder created calms me now. Emphasize me, let's figure me out. But I'm as afraid as you of losing my skin, of losing my friends and my parents too. No matter how I chose them, the way it chose me, it's a shame we're two confined by how we speak. I can't eat when no fuck with those words anymore.
Si toi ça t'arrange, si ça te va,